Load in the Loop is sponsored by Blackfire.io. I'm Eric Hileman, CEO and co-founder of Mage Mojo Magento Hosting in New York City. The purpose of this program is to take some of what we learned from over 10 years of Magento-specific hosting and evaluate one of our customers' stores. We'll share with you what we find in hopes that it may help improve your Magento skills and the performance of your Magento stores. So along with me on this trip is my co-host, Ivan.
Hey, my name is Ivan. I'm one of Magento performance experts. I'm based in the Netherlands. Also, I'm a co-host on this show. So
Yeah.
now we finally get a chance to record a new one. As you see, I'm right now in the new recording set. I'm at the moment at my third story of my home. So almost in the attic, my kind of home office, temporary, because there was some storms and I was staying at home with my family. Also because of family reasons, I needed to give more attention, to kid and so on. So it was wise to move actually my beefy PC from office to my home and do a lot of stuff here. So how is it going for you?
Good. I had Megasaurus outside taking core samples, so that was delaying us last week as well. That I don't know why they're taking core samples out there, but they were pounding through the sidewalk, and that was just so loud everywhere. Like the whole neighborhood was.
Like last week, I was worried about your sound outside. But yesterday I was worried about outside over here because like wind over here was howling very loud yesterday. So I was sitting working here and like the winds were crazy. And it's good that we didn't have time to record yesterday. We didn't have a chance to do it because probably the sound would be terrible. So
Yeah.
It at least not as terrible as previous sound, because probably our viewers don't know, but I completely messed up with the quality of the recording. I didn't check that my audio bitrate was very low. However, I have a very good microphone, but the quality of the sound was at 60 kilobits. And it just that doesn't make sense, like I could just use my laptop for doing this kind of recordings. So from Magento news, anything interesting happening? I saw there was some very nice tweet thread about a Jeffree Star cosmetics launch.
Yeah, so I took some. So the Jeffree Star Cosmetics is huge. He's got, I think, 15 or 17, almost 17 million followers on Twitter alone, and he does cosmetic products, Jeffree Star Cosmetics, and they do a lot of drops. So they'll hype up a new product line. This one was Bloodlust. He does videos about it, builds up the hype, and they have a limited inventory. So then they do a doorbuster where the site opens up and everybody goes in and gets it as fast as they can. In November, we saw one of our customers, they're Stratus scaled way out, and we were like, well, wow, what's going on? What's Stratus doing? Is this an attack? Big DDoS? But no, it was real legit traffic. And that's when we later learned that he did a collab with Shane Dawson, and in November, I think it was November 1st, they knocked down Shopify and knocked down other customers on Shopify as well. And we got a lot of the overflow traffic from that onto one of our customers who's an authorized retailer. So he'll release a collection, and only some items are available on his site, but most of it's available on the retailers as well. So everybody really gets slammed on it. And they contacted us again and they said, hey, he's doing the Bloodlust collection, and we're gonna see some traffic for that like we did last time, and everything held up well, and we want to make sure everything's going to be good again, which it was, and it went really well. We had no queues or anything like that. But it looks like Shopify was queuing orders, and from Twitter comments, like people weren't getting through at all. They were having all kinds of issues with the queue. Other authorized retailers who were on Shopify as well, like I posted a screenshot of that. I was like, hey, it looks like Shop's struggling again. And that attracted the Shopify fanboys. And I didn't realize that there's apparently some war between the Rails community and the PHP or Magento community. I don't know. I stepped into that somehow, and I don't really know how. But someone in that came forward and was like, "Oh no, this is a bad look for you. You shouldn't say that. They're doing really well, and this is just a limitation of MySQL and Redis." And I was like, wait, no, MySQL, hundreds of thousands of transactions a second. And Redis, what are you doing with Redis? And so it turns out like Redis added pub sub, and a lot of people are using it as a message queue. And I'm like, yeah, but even still, like, you should be getting hundreds of thousands of messages in and out of there a second. Like Shopify's public numbers say 166 orders a second. And so there's no way that MySQL or Redis is the bottleneck to 166 orders a second. There's just no way.
Yeah, it's there's definitely some kind of locking happening in the background because when you place an order, you have to update a lot of information in your store in order to make sure that when a lot of people buy the same product, you don't have oversell of items.
Yeah.
You don't have too much customers getting paid for an item that they want to get because it's not in stock,
especially a limited stock. That's a limited.
And in that case, like in Magento 1, in Magento 2, it's even more visible, especially in light of the issues that we were discussing a couple of shows ago about high concurrency order placements. That it was an issue on one of the customers when the coupon counter was updated.
Yeah.
That actually reduced the order number to one order per minute.
Yeah. Well, there's speculation that like Shopify will do private deals to increase that, although publicly they say we don't do private deals to increase that.
Yeah, it's like in Magento, like you have different options. So I was having a lot of discussions with core developers and was saying like, why don't you implement just more sophisticated feature of deducting stock? That's going to be accurate and high performant. However, they just say, like we have two options here. Like we can either sacrifice consistency of the stock data, or we can sacrifice performance for consistency. So they don't want to change the whole architecture of the stock deductions itself, because I, for instance, already built one of the stock services for one of the customers a long time ago. I even have a talk I was giving about it at Mage Titans Netherlands last year, where I can actually just explain real quick if you are interested.
Yeah. Andre, he's one of the Magento cloud developers. He said they did a POC with, 86 orders a second? And he said if you move quote to cart into an in-memory table, you can do 10x that. So is that similar to what you...
3,000 stock mutations per second.
Nice.
How do you like it? So
that helps.
Yeah, let me just open
now,
it.
Is this a microservice? No, okay. In pure PHP.
Yeah, in pure PHP. So there is no Rust involved, nothing. It's just a pure implementation of event sourcing in PHP in MySQL. The only difference that application is written actually in asynchronous manner. So it's not a blocking application where you just start the PHP FPM process and then you wait till it dies to return back the result. No, here you have one single PHP process. We actually will link this talk in the show notes, definitely. But let's go just a little bit. So everything about this one. So this is a standard Magento behavior. So let's say you have some stock items, you place an order, it validates a stock item, then if this item becomes out of stock, Magento actually logs those stock items and puts them into the reindex list. And that reindex list later on gets reindexed by Magento during the purchase phase. That is kind of a bottleneck, unless you have asynchronous functionalities enabled. But unfortunately, it's not the case all the time. So if you don't have update on schedule, you're screwed in this case. And even I remember with update on schedule, standard catalog inventory was still reindexing manually by this. So MSI behavior works very similar. The only thing is that there is no logs involved. MSI has issues with consistency. So in MSI, with the replaces in order, it just validates quantities. Is there some available in stock? If there's some available, it creates negative reservations. And then like the stock will become eventually consistent. So you will see minus quantity. But the problem is you allow orders of the items that are not yet that are already out of stock during that period of time. So there is a risk like there is going to be a race condition where two customers will buy the last item, right? But then it will be a task for actual end user and merchant to deal with it, decide which customer going to get the order and which one going to get a refund. So this is how Magento 2 works. This is some other things from the talk, and here is a little bit about the application. So I've built a asynchronous application. It's using event sourcing. So every single stock mutation is stored as database record. So let's say you have adjustment coming from stock recount, you have adjustment coming from return of the item through your ERP, or you have an adjustment coming from buying new stock, let's say from somewhere else. So you have epochs. So let's say in order to not overgrow MySQL tables, every single time frame, there is a new set of tables getting created in the system. So in that case, there's going to be one table to track epochs of the events, and another one is going to be event with this epoch suffix in the table name. And inside of this events table, there is going to be some events like ordered SKU, updated item SKU, adjustment, return, shipped, cancelled, all the stock mutations. So you have complete stock history with everything that's happening, and based on these events, you actually get the final stock information. So this is how it just happens. So as the time passes, you get more epochs, more tables created. And it also means MySQL can work much more efficiently, because in MySQL, if the table indexes are fitting into memory of your buffer pool, everything works great. And usually the older epochs are not accessible during the runtime. So usually, like as time moves, you only work with events that are the most recent. You usually don't go and look at the older events. They're just stored as a history. So it's kind of, I don't know, can I call it brilliant idea? But I just came up with the idea, okay, how can I reduce, how I can preserve the events history without cleaning up the table, and at the same time without sacrificing performance. So here is the solution I came up with for this customer. And basically the table structure is very simple. Epoch, ID, then started at and ended at. So I can create a report, let's say, of all the stock mutations from this time to this time. And it's just very simple operation on the database level. And event table is very simple as well. And then there is aggregate as well. So aggregate, it's kind of aggregated state. It's not used for actual stock mutations. It's used for, let's say, frontend to show is product in stock or not. And it's updated at real time with this service. And this aggregate, it contains information about the last event that was applied to it and the last epoch. So let's say when system looks, let's say customer tells, hey, I want to buy this product. What happens is going to pick up an aggregate. If aggregate is not there, it's going to create new one. but usually the new aggregate is created on the first event, right? And then when it creates this aggregate, and when it has this data already there, it knows what was the last event processed, and it can query the event table for the last event since that one. And then at real time, and it can calculate all the adjustments that was happening since last update to the aggregate. And then here's a very interesting diagram. So basically what happens there is some Magento front-end node that communicates with this microservice. And this microservice spawns a bunch of workers that are also asynchronous that work with this database. And those asynchronous workers, they have kind of clustered processing of multiple SKUs. So let's say one worker tells, hey, I'm going to process SKUs from SKU1 till SKU1000. The second worker tells from 1000 till 2000, and so on. So in this case, every single worker is single-threaded, and stock mutations happening atomically in memory instead of hitting I/O. So let's say if there is a lot of customers who want to buy the same product, they will end up in the same worker that will know about all the requests and will automatically reject the one that is already out of stock. So we don't rely here on database level locking in order to implement atomic updates and consistent updates. We are relying on single-threaded in-memory cluster of workers. And in such a way, it can actually scale to thousands of operations in stock deductions per second. And basically, it's horizontally scalable because you can, increase number of workers infinitely, because they all responsible for some small part of the system. So,
I see. Yeah, they each have a. I got it now. Okay. Yeah. So you split up the stock so they can each manage a small portion of the stock instead of one thing managing all the stock.
Yeah, because
is that another way to say it?
Yeah, because when we talk about the standard approaches which software developers are using, they just rely on database for that purpose. So they say, hey, I'm going to lock this database record, but the time that it takes for you as a program, right, to send a query to the database in order to lock that record, then database return you back a response and tell, hey, I acquired a lock, or I wasn't able to acquire a lock, or I'm keeping you waiting till other process releases the lock for that row. All that time adds more and more lock congestion, and more parallel customers are coming in and trying to do the same. And in the end, MySQL is just gonna die.
That's why you're queuing it up. Yeah, queuing people.
It's just gonna be
like connection overwhelmed. They just back up.
Yeah, so that's why you see those kind of issues with that Shopify with Magento, because no one has implemented this kind of strategy for deduction, because it requires actually quite tailored solution for specific customer, because you need to put inside of this worker, you need to put a business logic. You cannot just, create a deductor that will automatically do it for every single use case. So you have to actually program it in order to include into consideration what kind of logistics of this specific customer, how it works. For simple ones, for single warehouse, it's probably trivial to implement. But I usually deal with customers that have some kind of multi-warehouse installment, so it's
so
always.
Checkout's a second on this. What are you thinking? Like take it from stock Magento. Stock Magento, no customizations, no tricks, just out of the box community.
Yeah. So
on Mojo Stratus, what do you think you could push it to?
The standard Magento. Let's say if we are not considering this service at all, right? This is standard Magento with MSI. You can achieve very high throughput by fixing a couple of core bugs. So,
not fixing core bugs. Who was it? Igor? I'm probably murdering his name. Jenniker on Twitter. He writes a lot of AWS Magento articles. He shared a link to that old Magento. It was like Magento 2.0 benchmark where they were like 0.7 orders a second or something.
From a real Magento 2.3.4 experience, like it's still not more than one order. I cannot put it into my mouth, but it's actually one order per minute.
It's a second, one per second, really slow.
No, one per minute, because as soon as you have some kind of payment integration, as I said, these ghost orders. You remember we were talking about the one that was related to the database wall system database lock that was happening on place order during the guest checkout.
Yeah, refresh my memory, because I'm pretty sure I've seen community stores here going up to 20 or 30 orders a second, and they're in their peak. Now that's not like sustained for an hour or more. That's just
like you can have occasionally 20 orders. Yeah, actually it works well if you don't use sales rules. But as soon as you have sales rules, you get the whole one order per minute or something like that if you have some external API. So if you have, let's say, a payment method that requires you to contact this payment provider in order to receive a confirmation of the payment during the place order operations, then the whole order transaction is going to wait for that things to complete.
Oh. I gotcha.
This kind of bug, that is a problematic one. The one that I hit with one of the customers during Black Friday, and I supplied a quick fix for them. Also, I've submitted an issue to Magento team and supplied a quick workaround how to fix it, but I'm not sure if it's already fixed or not. I didn't follow up on it, but the issue is there. And like with the standard Magento, if you want to use all the Magento features, like sales rules, let's say like free shipping rule, and if you have all the, let's say you have a shipping rule that tells, hey, I want to sell products, and if the cart total is more than $50, I want to offer free shipping, right? In that case, if you have this kind of sales rule and all of the users during the high peak traffic buys more than $50 in shopping cart in total, then it means all those users are creating log contention on your system. And even one customer like that logs that actually logs the whole purchase process during checkout. Just one customer is enough to bring down, let's say, customers that don't have the sales rule, but they still will wait for reading from this sales rule table, even through the sales rule table is.
So they start a transaction, and then the payment is waiting to go through, and then
until the person which payment transaction is confirmed don't receive confirmation from PSP and bunch of other APIs if there is any. And I know a lot of Magento stores, they are misconfiguring it and they sending also emails within an order placement operations. That one is also a big no-no.
yeah.
So because it also increases the time of the total transaction. And then you have log contention on a database level at epic scale. So basically I can't come up with any number without actually fixing the scalability issues that exist.
So fixing just a few small tweaks and fixing core issues. What do you jump up to then?
Easily 200 orders per second. So easily. So this is something that I know for sure is possible because I was achieving it before with Magento 1 without any issues. And technically, the order replacement operation is not different at all in Magento 2. So 200 orders per second, it's like a breeze. As soon as you remove all the lock operations that are happening during order place operation, it's possible to do it. There are still limitations related to consistency, as I say, with MSI. As we saw in MSI, there is actually no locks happening, so there is a possibility that two people can buy the last piece in stock. That's basically it, but we can even go more in concurrency if we create an asynchronous APIs, let's say for shopping cart or for actually for storing data into Magento, because the biggest bottleneck during checkout, why there is specific limitation, it's the number of write operations you perform on the database, right? You have to update quote, you have to update quote address, quote item, quote payment, quote shipping rate, like bunch of tables gets updated per every single shopping cart. And of course, it's going to be a problem for MySQL because it happens from multiple MySQL connections. So MySQL internally needs to coordinate between multiple threads how it's going to perform those updates concurrently. And that's why it's important to move this into own microservice. So let's say you can create a microservice that just schedules storing of the data. You don't need to replace the whole business logic around shopping carts. You just replace the way how shopping cart data is saved within Magento with a microservice. And then this microservice is actually, instead of using, let's say, hundreds of database connections, we'll use only one connection that will store all of the concurrent quotes, let's say, every 3 milliseconds. And
kind of okay,
and
like
and then you kind of can scale a lot again, because it means there is going to be only one write operation for, let's say, 200 shopping carts. Because this microservice will keep all the shopping carts in memory, and every 3 seconds it's just gonna sync it to database.
Interesting. And you would do that in Rust?
It can be done in Rust. It also can be done in PHP. So there is a lot of options. Both of them are actually portable. So if we talk about PHP, in PHP you have a bunch of libraries that are available that will run on any hosting environment. So you can use React PHP with MySQL adapter, and you can write those kind of batching solutions. And also you have in Rust, you also actually have now MySQL asynchronous library. It was released recently. I still didn't play with it, but it looks very promising. And it means that, yeah, in Rust you can do even more, because you can have not a single-threaded but multi-threaded saver of the shopping cart data. And Rust is very memory efficient, so you can build your data structures for shopping cart specifically that are going to be aligned in memory and will take much more less memory than actual PHP data, or for instance data stored in MySQL. So Rust microservice can, manage thousands of concurrent shopping carts with 200 megs of data or something like that.
Okay, so what are you up to now in checkouts a second? 1,000, 3,000?
I think it's hard to tell, but I definitely sure that it's possible to achieve thousands. So then we go, let's say, from, because as soon as we remove a bottleneck of write operation on MySQL, and in that case, Magento will not talk with checkout MySQL database at all. Magento will just talk with Rust or PHP service in order to load the data and retrieve the data. So the only bottleneck in this case, like you can scale as much as possible FPM Magento instances, right? And those FPM Magento instances will just connect to this multi-threaded beast microservice.
Yeah. Now, David Alger was saying like you're going to hit a Redis limitation because he was saying he's got JMeter test with a 3% conversion rate, which by the way, I'm sure like on Jeffree Star launch, his conversion rate's like 90% or higher. But what's the bottleneck you're going to hit in Redis with that situation? Because I haven't seen that.
It's another issue with Magento itself. So Magento starts session where it's not needed. So
that's the one you were load testing here and fixing, wasn't it?
It was about cache.
That's a different one.
It was about cache, right? Cache generation and looking. But what I'm talking about, let's say, do we need to open a connection to a Redis if customer didn't add anything to the shopping cart, if customer didn't do anything in the system? And Magento does a lot of requests. We were talking about it before on the show, like customer section load.
I remember now.
It's just a killer of your Redis instance because it happens on every single static page. Unfortunately, I'm completely busy. Like I started working on this extension. I have a couple of live streams already out there. Where I already started working on customer section load, but I didn't have time to go on and continue working on it. So, but
and that's just the session start. So if that's in Redis, well, no, because you're still going to hit MySQL on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So you're gonna hit MySQL, you're gonna hit Redis. So
yeah.
Basically, removing customer section load completely, except the cases where you actually do something in Magento that requires you to get this dynamic data, you can already achieve much more throughput from Magento. Because I was building Magento stores using Varnish for a long time in Magento 1. And in Magento 1, I've built a Varnish extension that already has a proper caching functionality for that dynamic data that only executes one HTTP request. And with that one, you were able to utilize very low hosting plan in order to achieve a lot of concurrent checkouts. So there were a bunch of customers who still, let's say, pay, 300 euros a month and can easily sustain Black Friday sale. So of course they usually don't want to risk it and scale up, but with load tests.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I like doing this on Stratus, because we can scale it out as we need and we can scale it back down, and customers aren't building this big thing and always worrying about it. It's pretty dynamic infrastructure.
Here we are. Today we're going to review some customer of MageMojo. Eric, tell a little bit about the customer.
Yeah, Hooks and Lattice. So they've had slow site complaints, high MySQL usage, high Elasticsearch use. They just have a long history of those problems, and they get busy in spring right around now. So once you start, gardening season comes around, they get pretty big spikes in traffic, and it's their busiest season. And they do have auto scaling on. But their code is really, really stressing the systems. And we've done the basic stuff that we can do, but from this point, we need to just get a more deeper, comprehensive review for them to see what's going on. So I'm sure we'll find some interesting things.
Okay, so I see that they have multi-store, so they have different brands, right, that they sell through Magento. I see it in the header right
Yep.
here. So looks good. Let me just real quick check if we are recording it properly. Yeah. Okay, good. So let's profile a homepage. And let's just run it like that. Let's see what we're gonna see right now. By the way, I didn't run any test profile prior to it, so we will see first time what's gonna happen. Usually I just check if Blackfire works, but now Jan knows very well how to configure Blackfire, so I just trust it works. Big shout out
Yeah, that's
to
coming
Jan.
out this week on Stratus, so that customers can enable it themselves in the UI with Xdebug as well.
Okay, so what here we can see is that there is quite a lot of I/O happening, as you see here, 195 milliseconds, and most of this I/O is not from the database. So this is kind of interesting. Let's take a look at the timeline. So bunch of stuff, and here we are. Here's where our I/O coming from, and encrypt. Why do they need to encrypt something on the front end on the homepage? This sounds interesting. Okay. Let's see about the Redis time. So the Redis time is only it's actually 40 milliseconds are spent on Redis, so it's quite a lot, and it's 211 calls, 60 database queries. Yeah. Let's see what's happening here.
Can you hear my doorbell ring?
Yeah. So here is right away some stuff related to Amasti, as always.
As always, Xsearch is a new one now.
Yeah, so this GS init plugin, so probably it is the search box that just shows some popular searches or whatever, but it's probably could be moved from the page render, into some Ajax call when you actually click on a field, because right now, like as just regular user that just browse and navigates through the website, it doesn't make sense to already preload this data. That's probably is going to be a little bit expensive operation, because like 40 milliseconds to render those popular searches. So do you hear us, Musty? Actually, it's 200 milliseconds. 134, something like that. Yeah, so quite a lot for just simple block. Another one, of course, is a mini card. This is kind of interesting, yeah. So this one is related to Magento bug, related to the configuration files of Vue XML that are not getting cached in Magento. So Magento doesn't cache view configuration files, and it means every single page request gets hit with it. I already have a module for it. I just didn't release it yet. So
in the stash.
Yeah, but actually, one of the customers from one of the shows already was contacting me, and I already just sent them out this module. It's just 3 files in it and a couple of lines of code in order to add caching around this view read method. So it just removes this IO operation by walking through the files and so on, because this one is quite expensive, especially in after-scaled environments. And here we have some interesting thing happening here. So we have quite slow process, but I think it's related to
Hey, there's our favorite shop by.
Yeah, so here we have shop by, and again, like generate all filters. Why do you show filters on a homepage? Like there is no filters whatsoever. There is no justification to have this operation happening here. So
Amnesty says they've improved shop by in the latest.
Or maybe they're using it for menu. Wait a second. Let's see. Looks like here, you see, they have this kind of menu where they show different filters, or it's category. Let's click over there. Let's just take a look what's happening. Is it category? No, it's filter. So this is what it does. It retrieves those filters in the menu, right? Oh, wait a second. What did I click here? I clicked here red color, and okay, so it selects the color red.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's understandable functionality, let's say. So, but this one is actually not related to this one. So this one is unrelated to this generate all list, because this is happening during this canonical it happens during the canonical URL generation. So this is not happening during the menu generation. So that one over there is redundant. Here, another module, yeah. Here we are. Hello, Amasti again. With composer access of the Magento version. Again, it's product version. It's not an actual code base version on which you should depend on, because Magento can have various features under the same product version, so you cannot really rely on it. The product metadata is not something that you need to put as an if statement in your extensions. You should rely strictly on composer based dependency in require section of composer file. So here we are. The head block has this 250 milliseconds just spent there because Amasti module retrieves Magento product version in order to put it somewhere. I don't know even what this method is doing in their Xsearch block, but definitely like original file path. Why they need Magento version for that? So like they have some if statement based on your previous Magento versions that you had, but you cannot rely on that because the minor Magento version can receive a backport fix with the different file paths already. So you better do different kind of validation of that kind of functionality. So yeah, another ones here. Yeah, I don't see anything outstanding here, but mostly because first of all they have issues with autoloader. So they need to compile their first they need to compile DI, and they need to run composer dump after load with optimized flag. So then composer will receive the class map of all the classes that exist in Magento with appropriate file paths. So no find file method will be called, and no IO is going to be invoked on including
What's
the file.
the crypto? We haven't seen the crypto call yet, have we?
So let's switch to the time-oriented visualization, because here you actually can search for specific functions. Encrypt. Okay. Secret. This is weird. Okay. Three times. So yeah, it's weird it doesn't show it here. Let's see. Can I put something like this one? No. Is it like prefixed? No. Crypt. Probably it's not timely significant for them to show in the timeline view.
Yeah, it was like 6 milliseconds or something, 6.3.
Yeah, but still, this one is very weird. Because like it's called three times. Maybe some of the extensions have some kind of license check or whatever, that verifies a license by decrypting something and verifying it over there. So
yeah.
But in general, yeah, I don't see anything over there. Let's take a look at the database queries now. Okay, so they're using Magento Commerce. Okay.
Ooh, mega menu? What?
Yeah.
UB mega menu.
Could be that there is some kind of management menu, like you can just create it. Probably. That's why. Actually, then they don't use shop by. They use mega menu in order to generate those links, and they manage them manually, probably just by passing URLs, in a menu structure. So I thought it's more kind of a solution that I was doing for one of Magento 1 customers. Here, this customer, for instance, has all those brands taken from layered navigation, and all the themes, new arrivals, top designer, and categories, all of this data is taken from Sphinx by running a couple of Sphinx queries and generates all the menu. And for instance, you can go into the designer, and in the end, it's basically this man category and this Dolce Gabbana. It's just a URL slug for the Dolce Gabbana filter. And as you see, it just selects a filter Dolce Gabbana. So it's kind of, let's say, adjustable alert navigation where you can select filters and it will generate a new content page for you. But this is still Magento 1 customer, so it's not Magento 2.
I remember you talking about the slug thing.
Yeah, so this is the thing that I thought they have implemented, but in the end it's just a standard static information in a database, so it's not auto-generated. Okay, and also they have Bluefoot installed as well. I haven't seen this in a while, like I saw that it would use page builder. But apparently they use some kind of a hybrid solution, like they still have a copy of Bluefoot. So quite interesting. This one concerning, like, what if you have thousands of filter settings? You just load all of them on every single page. Musty, don't do it, please. It just wastes of your system memory that is available, that is limited actually per PHP process, because like if you have 200 concurrent visitors that are hitting your dynamic page and every of them is actually going to load all of this table into memory without actually needing all the data, it's just a waste of resources, and it reduces number of concurrent connections that the system can serve. Okay, I think we've seen enough on the homepage. I think we did quite throughout review of this one, right?
Yeah.
So let's summarize some standard issues with the Mastim modules. Composer issue that they load all the filters, issues that they load all the configuration settings for filters. Another one related to where it was mini search block, right?
Yeah, by preloading that. The X search.
Yeah, JS init X search. They preload some popular results. However, this one is not. It could be done in a different way. Like, why do you waste resources by preloading it for every page? However, you can do it on a click, because this data, if it takes, let's say, to render here 134 milliseconds, this kind of Ajax call is good. Like you can execute this 130 millisecond Ajax call, and the customer, from the moment when the customer clicks till the pop-up shows, it won't be that much of a big difference.
And then Amnesty checking Composer for module versions.
But also, like, it means, like, you also consider from the caching. Like, you have this one, this block, and if you have varnish cache, and let's say someone is gonna abuse your store and put some very terrible queries in the popular searches, right? So they'll bring some query terms into popular searches, or let's say
germs and searches.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna make a show note for that, germs and searches.
And in the end, like, they can abuse the system, and you cannot get rid of them unless you flush all your cache. However, if you would have it as an Ajax request, that can be cached also by Varnish, right? So you can cache this request in Varnish for these popular searches and recent searches, especially recent searches. This one is.
That's the title of the show, is Germs and Searches.
Yeah. Like, I think in Europe, like, if you consider recent searches, I think it's going to be a little bit of an issue from point of view of privacy law.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, if someone will search something specific that, someone can, see that this person is on this website, and they go on that website and look into the recent searches, and then they can find out what this person is looking for, right? It's not that big of a deal, but I think if we are talking about different kind of websites,
medical website selling medical stuff,
then this kind of an issue with the private data being exposed to other visitors is a problem. It's always, or for instance, sometimes, by the way, a password after completion puts password in unpredictable places as well. So even from perspective of that one, you should never show, other visitors search terms that has been just happening,
Yeah.
It's just a bad practice, in my opinion. But we are not an extension builder, so...
I wonder how many merchants actually go through their search history and use that for valuable intel. Because like Phil mentioned on Twitter, like that's the one place where your customers specifically ask you exactly for what they want. Wonder how many people actually use that for merchandising.
This merchant, again, I will bring him up again. So he is using search a lot, and he says like for him, the biggest conversion rate comes from quick search box.
Yeah.
So because you can type Prada shoes, right? Okay, there is no Prada shoes for this store apparently. Boot. Yeah, so only boots are available right now in stock.
It's right there.
Yeah, so you can already click and find a product. And what he says, he constantly monitors what people are searching for by analyzing search terms. And here, actually, these search terms don't kill your database in this case. So, and at the same time, right, it's quite fast as well. But let's stop bragging about some nice projects. Okay.
No, it's cool. It's cool. That's that little mini search pop up there is a great way to quickly find what you're looking for, and you can see it.
Yeah, and the funny thing, this one is achieved without any third-party solution like SLI or let's say Clevo or another one. Let me just remember it. What is another popular solution?
SLI, those are the two main that I know.
Also, this one also very, very, very popular. Also used for layered navigation.
Oh, Smile.
No, not Smile.
I thought you were going to promote Scott. Every episode we're promoting Smile. We should get sponsored by them. Can they sponsor us?
It's interesting actually. When I moved to the Netherlands, I moved on half a year contract working for Smile office in Amsterdam. So I was training their team in Amsterdam on Magento 1 at that time. So it was 2013. So I was in their team for 8 months. I was coaching them every single day. Like I was helping with complex projects, setups, and so on. So
nice.
I know Smile has a set of quite experienced developers. So
it's very cool.
Okay, let's profile a category page. So this is our pots and planters category page, and this one doesn't look promising because it's quite a long time. So let's see what we see as a result. And it takes quite a lot of time to load the aggregated data, right? Oh. This is a lot of HTTP requests. probably it's related to the show by extension and Elastic search itself, right?
Yeah, they do have ES, yeah.
But they have ES extension from Amasti, right?
I'm not sure.
Show by. Amasti is not show by is not compatible with anything else than Amasti Elastic search.
Oh, okay.
So here we are. Google Tag Manager.
Yeah, MSD Elasticsearch, there it is.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. So get loaded product collection, blah, blah, blah. It walks through all the stuff in its searchable attributes. And here we hit hard the system with attribute data provider. So here is our load in a loop that takes 1.5 seconds. What it does probably for this category page, it separately asks Elasticsearch for all of these facets data. As far as I know, like in Elasticsearch, you can actually execute it in one HTTP request, not in multiple ones. But what they do here, they do it for every single one. And apart from that, they also load the data from Magento database as well, you see. They load options. So they actually do two things wrong here. They ping here is actually, it's only time to load attribute options only. It doesn't hit Elasticsearch here. It's only hitting Magento database here. So we probably will see Elasticsearch later on along the lines, So this init searchable attributes is a huge performance hog because it creates attribute options for every single attribute and it loads all the attribute options. So it's not considering attributes that, first of all, are visible in the page. This is actually what you have to do. You have to, before loading attribute labels, you have to iterate through all of the products you've loaded with attribute filters, and you need to collect those option IDs, and then you have to supply these option IDs to load the labels with your single query. So this is the best approach from point of view of performance. Then you don't load all the options, you don't waste system memory, and you don't waste loops as well, because what happens here, Magento first of all loads those options separately per each attribute, and then this list of attributes gets iterated in order to create some searches. Like if you want to find an option by ID or by label, Magento will iterate through all of the options that were loaded, and PHP iterations are very slow. So it's even slower than IO operations that would happen if they would just execute the query on a database. So this one is a problem here. And yeah, so basically this part, is, as I understand, it's all related to our category filters. Oh, my kid is downstairs. Doesn't want to go to bed.
I can't hear it.
Yeah, I hear it, but yeah, the microphone is in the right direction, so you probably don't hear it. That's why. But yeah, we have to stop soon. Maybe because I need to help my wife with him. But in general, here we have this MageWorks as well. So yeah, MageWorks adds some stuff, oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
Is that OMFG? Is that extension OMFG? Wait, yeah, there.
CMFG.
So CMFG. Okay.
Yeah, so this one is huge problem. Because here, instead of using the price from price index, it's using iteration through all of the simple products of a group product in order to find the minimal price. So then it triggers a bunch of operations, and as you see, every single product that is grouped on a page, it's gonna show us at least half a second additional load time.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's big ouch. And we see here from this data, I see that they have 4 group products on this page. Let's see if it's true. This is the first group product. This is the second group product, the third, and the fourth. And this one too. Interesting. Or they don't have that much products. Let's revisit this one. One group product, second group product. Oh, it's configurable. So there is group products and configurable products. So that's why there could be a little bit more data. But yeah, but basically the problem is here. This one needs to be done through customization. You need to write a plugin around this final price get value when you are on a category list, and you need to make sure that you use the data that is available already in a product from the price index, and just return this value from the price index instead of like going through all the simple products. It will save a lot of time in rendering the page, and also memory usage. So here we are again with the product list itself. Product list. Yeah, so here's the price again, and here we have, I think, MSI in play. Is sellable resolver. So, oh no, it's not MSI, it's again configurable product. So again, Magento, when it accesses the product price, it checks if the configurable product is sellable, and instead of using again data from the index, it's gonna work through every single simple product and find out if every single product is sellable. But for a configurable product, in order to find it out, you have also to load all the configurable attributes of those configurable in order to find out other related stuff to a configurable product. And this one triggers some terrible performance bottlenecks. So this is sellable. It's like 80 milliseconds on every single configurable product. So here we have the second part of the page related to products. So it doesn't take too much to render products, but probably because the configurable products has been preloaded already on a previous step. But here we have our issue with the layered view. So the layered view, it's a part where Magento renders filters. So this is this part of the page, right? So this filter boxes, right? These filter boxes. Oh, what's happening here? So this filter. Oh, how did I? Oh yeah, I opened the wrong window. Sorry. I was looking like, yeah, where am I? What's happening? So here it is, layered view. So we have can show block, and can show block checks some data from Elasticsearch, get response, get documents, then again some stuff happening here, but I don't see any IO calls here. But this is weird. But I see here 18 calls. Yeah, so I just don't understand why they resolve an alias of Elasticsearch index 12 times. This is weird. Because like, right, if you are trying to query Elasticsearch, you already know that this data can be just retrieved only once. You don't need to do this HTTP call in order to find out what is the current index alias of this one. So here we see that it's version 560. And then they execute 6 queries. So let's see those 6 queries. So it's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't add up. Probably categories are taken from different area, but like it's 1 query per this filter, and to retrieve the product list itself. So yeah, this is a little bit weird, but again, I'm not sure that they really need to use a shop by extension from Amasti, especially if they already use Elasticsearch, they just can switch to Smile Elasticsearch. Yeah, so free advertisement for Smile Elasticsearch. and it's correct that it's free advertisement because this is a free extension.
But didn't you say Amnesty Shop By requires Elasticsearch?
No, I mean like Smile Elasticsearch provides the same functionalities. That's simple.
So anybody who's using Amnesty Shop By can directly convert over to Smile?
Yes.
Whoa. Okay. Yeah, I remember talking about Smile before, and you thought there was some extra work with that, but it sounds like you can directly convert over. So.
Yeah, some extra work is related to your design, right? So if let's say you modified Amasti templates, and but Elasticsearch comes with own templates, so it could be not compatible from the design. So of course it requires some stage of small front-end tweaks by your front-end developer in order to implement it. But considering how much you can achieve with it comparing to some proprietary extension, because if you want to fix some performance issue with a paid extension, it's much more complicated, because like you can try to fix it yourself, but in the end it's a black box. Like you don't know what's going to happen in the next version. You can send, let's say, a fix back to Amasti, but this is not guaranteed that Amasti is going to accept it, because they have huge customer base, and as any extension provider, they are worried about changing the existing behaviors, that it may break other installments that probably modified that piece of a code. And if we talk about the Smile Elasticsearch, you have it available on GitHub. You can contribute by creating a pull request if you find a performance issue over there, right? So in that case, like there is concrete advantages of Smile Elasticsearch over any paid layered navigation extension.
Amnesty says they made some performance improvements to the latest shop by. I don't think we'll have to test it and see. We'll have to get their release notes to see exactly what they did.
The biggest problem, I think, in our show, we are actually not reviewing the proper way, like I would do. Let's say if I have a customer, I would required to have an access to the code base, because right now it's just a guessing game. Like, I can see some common issues, but sometimes, for instance, if we talk about this part, right, it's homepage. Yes, I see a timeline, but without having a reference code itself, and without being able, to tweak some settings or, deployment functionality, and see where actual bottlenecks, or let's say sometimes when I do a profiling session, I'm just having a code open and I have a profiler, and then in profiler I see, hey, this piece of code takes a lot of time. What happens if I just comment it out? Will it show me other performance issues in other places? Because sometimes, like, you can fix one issue, but in the end, there is a bunch of other places the same piece of code is invoked, but before it was not visible because the piece of code that you saw those issue in was already preloading the data that is needed for the future calls. So in that case, it's just more complicated. But I think it's a good show to show an indication where to look for the issues and where they came from, because most of the issues that we see on the show, they're pretty much very simple. Like, you can see them right away. Like, you don't need to spend hours debugging through the code base and searching, hey, while let's say this piece of code in PHP. Like, for instance, there's plenty of code here that would raise my attention. Like, for instance, filter default PHTML. I don't see what's going wrong here. Why it takes so long, right? It's 925 milliseconds. But I don't see what can really...
There was an empty shop by hiding in there.
Yeah, but this is the only piece of the code that shows me internal execution. But
yeah,
in general, like, I really need to spend time and take a look at the code and get some clue, hey, why it's gonna run so slow, because this is abnormal time for PHP template to render, because 900 milliseconds to render a simple filter, yeah, this is not looking good. So I think there's some shenanigans going on with the render itself. So apart from that, so that's why I just recommend to try to go into Smile Elasticsearch, because I didn't see there those kind of templates. So I have couple of customers who already use Smile Elasticsearch, and their load times are never that terrible.
Is that your biggest summary then for this page, is to switch to Smile Elasticsearch? Yeah,
because like there's a bunch of stuff. So Smile Elasticsearch and group products and configurable products. The standard Magento bottlenecks with complex product types, where it tries to retrieve the price and it's not using price index, or it tries to check if product available to sell and it's not using the data that's already available in inventory index. It just tries to calculate it on the front end.
There's no module in your stash for that one?
I have it for some customers. Again, but you know, like I cannot bring everything as open source, because
yeah, you got to run a business. You got to keep some secret sauce.
Yeah,
keep some sauce secret.
It's kind of a thing. Like, yeah, I would love to have some stuff of that open source. Like, I've built crazy module for optimizing MSI that uses dramatically number of database queries, and as well fixes all those complex product types and other stuff. But part of making it open source, first of all, I don't have time to maintain all the open source projects. You know,
you get a lot of issues on your projects. I know we do on our Cron extension. It's just time consuming to run down.
So when I install and build it for a customer, I've tested this use case. I know it works well. And yeah, for the next customer who comes in, I just install this module. I just charge for the time I've spent actually to integrate it and check that it works properly. And yeah, so it's just easier for me than spend time to make it an open source extension, because making an open source extension requires you to write documentation, make sure that you explain well what this extension does, and so on. And you need to make sure that also it has a very well written automated test suite that will be possible to verify that with every single new Magento version you're gonna encounter and or version combinations, your extension is gonna work. Because when you are releasing it as open source, you have more responsibility because people are gonna install it that probably don't have expertise actually to go on and fix the module themselves. And even if they, let's say, gonna ask me to fix it for them, I'm not gonna be able to help them because I might not be available at that time frame. So if you work on open source project, you need to make sure that your open source project is actually working and working well, that it doesn't require your attention that much.
That's one of the benefits we have, is we have it installed on hundreds of customers here, our cron extension. So our support team's dealing with it, and we have tons of use cases. But if we didn't, it would be to not have all those access to all those use cases. It would be a lot harder to track down issues and find those, just the edge cases that come up that people ask you to run down. It's tough.
And like a lot of people at the same time, they get angry at Magento, like, Magento, wow, why your Magento system is not performant for every single use case? Like, the system is built from the different perspective. The system is built from perspective of flexibility, right?
Yeah.
So you cannot build flexible system that will fit everyone and at the same time will outperform everything else. Because if you have a specific use case, you can really take shortcuts. You can throw out a lot of code, right? You can just simplify the logic, let's say, of stock deduction, to not include, all those MSI shenanigans for single stock inventory, right? You can just have a simple worker. Let's say for some drop shipment where you have multiple warehouses within a single region, you have to have some custom logic over there that is not going to be fitted into the standard MSI as well. Or for instance, you might just use an MSI where you have one warehouse per country, but then each country has own website. Yeah, then MSI fits for you well. But let's say other functionalities are completely redundant for you, like migration of the stock from one warehouse to another, or multi-warehouse purchase capabilities. Like, this part of functionalities from MSI you don't need at all. So, yeah, it's all about, like, you cannot expect that a system with so many features is gonna work fast out of the box. You need to trim it down. You need to disable a lot of stuff.
In that Twitter conversation around the orders per second, I think some people were assuming that when I was speaking, that I was like saying, like, default Magento out of the box is gonna do 1,000 orders per second. Like, no, no. You do need to do some patches to it, but also, like you said, trim everything out and do something specific for what you want to use it for. And you can optimize.
Because a lot of stuff, let's say, I really like Magento Commerce as a product, but I really like to remove a lot of modules that are coming with Magento Commerce when I get a merchant in. So I just have a trimmed down version of Magento Commerce because, let's say, not every single customer out there is using Magento staging in functionality. And I had one customer that actually got annoyed with the UI interface of Magento staging because it was not allowing to operate in the same way as I was used to in Magento 1. But when they migrated to Magento 2 Commerce, they were really annoyed with UI options. the work was stuck, and we disabled staging, and everything went smoothly because they got used to the proper catalog rules, proper sales rules, everything. Like staging is a cool feature, but generally speaking, like it's not working for merchants who have already ERP and PIM systems in place, because those customers, they are not managing all the data in Magento. They use Magento to sell, not to manage their catalog. They have stuff coming from, and honestly speaking, like this is majority of Magento Commerce customers. So like staging is good for small business. So you are a small business and you want to have this kind of nice features like, hey, let's schedule this new promotion. You don't have ERP, you don't have PIM system that do not support scheduling like Magento does, right? So this is just kind of features that I always disable, apparently. So
should we look at the product page?
Yeah, let's do a quick look and let's wrap it up, right? Oh, wait a second. Let's take a look at the complex product. I occasionally clicked on the simple one. I want to click on this one. So this is our group product. Let's profile a page. So it's probably another 10 second or 7 second. Let's see.
Should we sing a song?
Oh,
there we go.
Okay, so 7 seconds. I almost was correct. Okay. Here I see a lot of I/O again. You see this is a huge number. Again, group product looks a little bit complex here. So here is probably some kind of Magento bottleneck. So if you have a group product with simple products that have custom options, you're gonna see kind of a bottleneck. So I didn't see this use case yet in Magento 2, but I expect that this is actually kind of trivial problem to fix if the proper load process would happen, because like you already know the list of the products you have on this page, right? And you can already preload all the custom options for all of the products by single database query. But as I see here in our timeline view, that every single product triggers get options, get option HTML, get options, get option HTML. So for group product, this is a bottleneck here. So it's up 1 second. Another one, again, the same thing, product option collection related to the group product. So get min product. So this one again looks a little bit odd, because some of the data that is taken on this page can be added by some observers and plugins. So yeah, it just doesn't work well. Okay, so I think we have to wrap it up because I have to go, unfortunately.
Yeah. Gotta sing the bedtime song.
Yeah. Okay, so I think, yeah, in general, mostly it's all the performance issues are related to group product.
Is that, do you have something on GitHub or any presentation on how to work around that one?
No, because majority of the customers I work with use configurable products. So, but it's the similar kind of fix, just group database operations together. Like, don't do per simple product, do it for the collection of products on group product load. And in general, I would take a look as a developer working on this project. I would open up the places where those calls are happening and taking a look. Can I get this data from somewhere else? Can I create some kind of database preloader, let's say on product afterload, that will already prepare for me the price, all the product options, and they just pluginize the places where Magento is slow and write a plugin around those places and just return the data that I already preloaded through my custom database service. And in such a way, I just cut down the time spent on all the database operations over there. So this is basically a how-to fix. And majority of such kind of performance issues I usually just create a preloader that preloads the data that I will use later on by pluginizing the places where Magento invokes those database operations.
Awesome. Okay. Well, so thank you for everybody who's been watching so far. Thank you to Blackfire.io for sponsoring us.
Yeah. Without them, we would not be able to profile this customer.
And you can tweet at us at Load in the Loop and litl@magemojo.com, and we'll link up our Twitter handles. So get at us if you have any customers that you'd like to see reviewed or any questions or any discussions about the episodes. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And until the next episode.